Now we'll turn to boxing. So 7 Irish boxers have qualified for Tokyo. Olympic qualifiers on in Paris at the moment. I'm sure you've seen over the past number of days. Kurt Walker and Brendan Irvine were already qualified. So over the past few days, Kelly Harrington in top form. She won gold today at the qualifying event. She'll probably be top seed in her division. We have the 30-year-old dub Emmett Brennan joining. We have the Antrim-based brother and sister Aidan and Michaela Walsh, and we have 23-year-old Aoife O'Rourke as well. So pretty good haul. Eric Donovan is with us. Hey, Eric.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Maybe just big picture first, and then we'll ask about some of the individuals. I think the most Ireland qualified before was 8 at Rio. Obviously, Michael O'Reilly failed his drugs test, and so only 7 fought. Does 7 this time around represent a big success, or what were the realistic targets?
Oh, I think it's a huge success, Joe. To be honest with you, looking at the way the world went with the whole kind of COVID situation, tournaments falling by the wayside, cancellations, and then the Irish team just having one kind of last chance saloon. We sent over 9 boxers. One of those was already qualified, Brendan Irvine. So the best possible outcome we could have got was 8. And we qualified 5 out of the 8. Now, if you had to offer that to any Irish boxing person before they left out, they would have broke your hand for it. They really would. Right. So all in all, we've 7 going to the games, and I think the Irish Amateur Boxing Association, the high performance team, will be very pleased with that.
Yes, because I suppose we were all worried in many ways when Billy Walsh departed, this thing might go off a cliff. So clearly that hasn't happened anyway.
No, and the one good thing about Irish boxing is, you know, we're a very proud boxing nation. We have a very good, rich kind of a heritage with it, and you know, at the grassroots level, all over this country, you know, there's a great passion for it, you know, and so what I'm saying is that there's always a huge uptake, especially in an Olympic year as well. You know, the numbers will always increase in clubs and membership, but you know, there's a conveyor belt of talent there, and all they need is to have a proper system in place. And when Billy left that time, it did kind of put a little bit of fear into, you know, people were worried, they were concerned about, you know, will we be able to get back to those heights again, you know, because the talent is there. We have good people in boxing. It just need to have good leadership, good kind of organisation skills, and a unity. We need to work together because there has been too much I would just say controversy between the high performance and the IABA and then Sport Ireland and all of that, and that's not good. There's so much disharmony, you know, when we work together, when we come together and we work as a team and a unit, the talent is there, and you know, it's no surprise why we're the number 1 Olympic sport in this country, you know, because the talent is there, and I think we have a very good chance. Another thing that jumps out at me there as well is you look at the female boxing, the female representatives on the team. We've 4 male qualified, 3 female, and that's the first time now we've had you know, multiple female boxers going to the Olympic Games since obviously Katie Taylor. So we've a very strong female team going out that I think would be more tipped to medal than, well, stronger favourites anyways to tip for medals than the male team. But look, all in all, everyone has a great chance going out there.
Well, we start with Kelly Harrington then on that front. So she beat Caroline Dubois from Great Britain, and that should, Eric, I'm reading, guarantee her top seeding at the Games. That sounds like a pretty good position to be in. How important is top seeding at the Olympics?
I think it's very important because, like, if you look at even the fight that Kelly, you know, a lot of the eyes of the world were on Kelly versus Hamadouche, who's former, current reigning professional boxing champion, and it's very rare that you would get the opportunity to see a world amateur champion versus a world professional champion, you know, and we got that. There was a lot of eyes on that fight to see what would happen, and you know, Kelly is an expert in the 3-round field of amateur boxing, and Hamadouche is a world champion, and you know, that's over 10 rounds. So when the World Amateur Association allowed professionals to come back in, there was a lot of amateurs weren't happy about that because they were thinking that, you know, these guys could be either, you know, they're being paid, a lot of them are getting good money, good endorsements, paid to to fight and box, and it could be dangerous or whatever. So there was a lot of people, a lot of eyes watching that fight, and sure enough, Kelly, with her superior amateur skills, schooled her over the 3 rounds. But you got, if you were watching the fight, if there was another 3 rounds, the tide would have changed, and it would have turned into Hamadouce's favour. But it's not. It's an amateur game. It's over 3 rounds. Fundamentally, they're the same sports, but they're very different. But it's over 3 rounds, and that's where Kelly is, far superior, and she got the job done. But anyway, going back to that point, Hamadouce is a very strong opponent. She will learn a lot from that fight. She will be, you want to watch out for her in the Olympic Games. Mira Potkonen, who has a couple of wins over Kelly Harrington already. 2 or 3 times she's beaten Kelly. She's the Finnish boxer, and she's also that boxer who stopped Katie Taylor in the Rio Olympic Games. Stopped, in that quarter-final bout. The lady who Kelly beat in the final of this tournament, Dubois, which is the younger sister of Daniel Dubois, who we all know, who was involved in that controversial fight that time with Joe Joyce. Yeah, and it just shows the pedigree.
We were just talking about him a couple of weeks back, where his eye was bust open and he ended the fight, took the knee in the fight, and got criticism for it. So she's his sister, his okay, right.
Sister. So, you can see the stock, it's good pedigree there as well, like, big, good boxing family. But Dubois beat Potkonen, and then Kelly beat Dubois. So, like, what I'm saying is there's a lot of strong fighters in this weight category, but the fact that Kelly got the number 1 seed is huge, because she'll avoid all these top dogs, so to speak, until at least the medal stages. So Kelly is a huge candidate for a medal in these Olympic Games. Probably our best chance going out there, I would say.
Okay, so she didn't have that top seeding. You'd be worried about her facing a difficult opponent early doors, and that won't happen now.
Well, yeah, you would be worried. But look, it all boils down to coming into form at the right time. And Kelly's just after winning this tournament. She's after beating some really top-class opposition. And she's come through a lot of challenges, Kelly, over the last while. She broke her hand, injury threatened, whether she would even make the Olympic team, and in some ways the COVID and the postponement might have worked in Kelly's favour, but she's coming into form right now, and that's something all athletes try and do every 4 years. They try and peak for that one moment in their life, and thankfully the Irish boxing team seems to be hitting a good spark of form. Yeah,
it's great. So, like, to do a blunt kind of potted history of Kelly Harrington's last couple of years: 2018 world champion, then 2019 that wrist injury that you mentioned, and then 2020 is the pandemic. So maybe the hope is she's recapturing her World Championship winning 2018 form just in time.
Yeah, like if you look at the female team, Michaela Walsh, Kelly Harrington, Aoife O'Rourke, over the last 4 years, well, especially with Michaela Walsh, in particular, Walsh and Harrington, they've been consistently standing on the podium at major championships. We call them majors, the Worlds, the Europeans, and Olympic Games. Obviously, they've never been to Olympic Games, but Worlds and Europeans, these have been medaling consistently over the last year. So if they continue in the same form, then they should stand on the podium at Olympic Games. It's not as easy as that, though, Sure. But like, if they can keep up the same consistency that they're doing, then they would be strong favourites to step on the podium again. Obviously, the Olympic Games has that added pressure. The whole world is watching the status of the event, the biggest sporting platform in the world, and it only comes around every so often. But the good news for us is, like I said, they are hitting a bit of form. Aoife O'Rourke is only 23 years old, right? European champion from 2019. Obviously, everybody had a quiet year in 2020. There was nothing happening. So she's European champion now, and she boxed against the Belarusian Wozniak, Elizabeta Wozniak. Okay, now she lost the first round. Aoife O'Rourke lost the first round, and 90% of boxers who lose the first round in amateur boxing lose the fight. And she showed great mental strength to turn it around, because the judges like to be on the winning side, of the result in the end. All the judges they don't like to be on the losing side, basically. They want to be going exactly the way the fight is being scored. But for them to kind of change tack, like for Aoife O'Rourke to kind of, grab that fight, and turn it around, shows great mental strength for a 23-year-old woman. She's a late starter of boxing as well. So I would say she's a dark horse, and I would give her a good chance.
So she is a late starter, is she, at 23? Because I was just doing the maths here and thinking, well, God, she was looking on as a teenager as Katie Taylor was winning in 2012. Like, it's hard not to draw the line from Katie Taylor to all these young fighters coming through. So she started a bit late, Aoife O'Rourke.
Yeah, she did. She was a late starter. But you're right, and the likes of Michaela Walsh and Kelly Harrington would have been on the team, so to speak, with Katie Taylor. But obviously, Katie was just that little bit, I wouldn't say like a little bit ahead, but she was internationally, she was kind of a bit ahead of these girls. But Kelly Harrington and Walsh would have, they would have been on the heels of Katie Taylor. There was huge talk one time of Kelly Harrington fighting Katie Taylor. Actually, if Katie Taylor stuck around. But obviously, Katie had other plans and turned professional. And Kelly Harrington has taken the mantle now, so she is now the kind of trailblazer for women's boxing in Ireland. And she is really stepping up to the plate as well. She's a world silver medalist, world champion. So, like, she is a super chance going out here.
Yeah, I guess Aoife O'Rourke would have been 14 when Katie Taylor was winning in 2012. It's hard not to think that had some kind of an effect, and here we are nearly a decade later. So on Michaela Walsh, I mean, this was an amazing story over the weekend. We had Michaela Walsh, who's 28, and then her brother Aidan, Antrim-based, both qualifying for Tokyo in the space of kind of 45 minutes of one another. Michaela's just lost her gold medal match this evening to Irma Testa of Italy. So she's 28, the brother Aidan is 24. You mentioned, I think, in keeping with all the female boxers, she is number 2 seed, I think she's expected to be at Tokyo, which will be obviously very advantageous. Probably a better chance of a medal than Aidan, but I mean, still remarkable for the family to have brother and sister going to the same games.
Isn't it a great story, Joe? It's just a brilliant story, brother and sister, siblings, that, qualified for the Tokyo Olympic Games. Imagine how proud that family feels. They come from a very, proud boxing family. Their father has been coaching them for years and years. But, Michaela Walsh, she's been producing over the last while. So there's been no real surprise there that she's making this Olympic Games. She was an Olympic candidate, and actually she's a candidate for a medal now as well. So she's, I would say, a very close second to Kelly Harrington. I would, if I was putting them in medal kind of positions, very close second to Kelly Harrington to pick up a medal for us. But her brother Aidan Walsh, 2 or 3 years ago, he would have been the number three select from Ireland. You wouldn't, like, there was 2 or 3 lads that were definitely ahead of him, the likes of Paddy Donovan, Kieran Malloy, these type of guys. But he kept grafting away and believing in himself. And he's after developing at a serious rate, and just something is after changing in him. There's a belief in him now. When he gets ahead on you, if he wins the first round, or if he gets a lead on you at all, very hard guy to beat. He's very, very clever, counter puncher, good footwork, and only 24 years of age. He's an outside chance. Like, it's just wonderful to see. And I think the confidence that his sister speaks with, have you ever heard Michaela Walsh speak in an interview or anything? She has that kind of, there's a sheer kind of it's not an arrogance, there's just a conviction in her. There's this conviction when she speaks about, and she's been around a long time. She boxed Nicola Adams in the 2014 Combat Games. Nicola Adams, you might remember, was the first ever female Olympic champion. She was the flyweight. Katie Taylor was the next one in the London Olympic Games. She's the Great Britain representative. So Michaela Walsh has been around a long time, mixing it with the best. When she talks, she talks with conviction, and she's a true champion. And I'm sure all of that has rubbed off on her brother as well, and he's definitely stepping up to the plate now, and rightly so. It's a wonderful news story for them, and I think they're going to have a great Olympic Games.
Okay, great. And that's not to mention Emmett Brennan. So Emmett Brennan is 30 years of age. He's a dub. He came through against Lyndon Nuha of Sweden. And this was in a box-off. This was real. I mean, you're talking about these Parisian qualifiers in the grand scheme of things is like last chance saloon for a lot of these fighters. I mean, for Emmett Brennan, this was classic. It comes down to this fight, whether you're going to the Olympics or not, at 30 years of age. And his story, I'm sure it resonates with you in some ways. His story is not a straightforward success all the way route through to Tokyo at all. I think he was either gave up the sport at one stage or was certainly thinking about it.
Yeah, Emmett Brennan's story is a real fairy tale story in all of this. He's he comes from the inner city Dublin. He's been grafting all of his life, in amateur boxing, and he's a really exemplary kind of an athlete, or a boxer. He'd be the kind of person you would use as an example to never ever give up, never stop chasing your dreams. He won the elite championships in 2017 for the very first time, and then 2018 he injured his hand, so he was out. And then 2019 he came back and won the elites again, but stepped up into light heavyweight division when Joe Ward turned professional. And in that 2019 he took out, would you believe, I read an article recently. He had no funding. There was no funding, no backing up until this year. He was given the international amount of funding this year from Sport Ireland, which is 12,000. Not a lot, but
No.
look, it helps.
No.
But he took out a loan from the credit union, Joe, in 2019 for himself, to fund himself, to fund his training plan, to fund his training camps, so he could make the Tokyo Olympic Games. Now, that's what you call taking a punt on yourself, Right. That's what you call backing yourself. Now, the stress of trying to qualify for Olympic Games is enough, but without having the financial pressures of it as well, on top of that.
Yeah.
But I love that story. He decided that, I'm not going to, I'm not just doing this for the sake of doing it. I'm doing it, and I'm going all in. I'm taking a loan. I'm going to back myself. And he got his shot, and he took it. He took it. And what a story, fantastic story. And he's going to really be a dark horse too, because not a lot of people know much about him. No international. Him and Aidan Walsh haven't gotten much international experience. They're the two first boxers since Adam Nolan to qualify for an Olympic Games without ever stepping on a podium at a major championships.
Wow. God, that's an amazing story. 30 years of age. Could be life-changing for him. Could become a household name and, make his few quid back for the credit union for a start. It does kind of show you, though, how difficult it is to get funding. I mean, he was clearly good enough to go, and we had Micheál Martin in the studio. I was bringing up this issue when you look at how we spend money on lots of different things, and here was somebody who had the talent to go, and he can't seem to get a penny off the state for far too long. And even Micheál Martin made the point, you'd love if we could almost get in ahead of the success and back them in advance, as opposed to, I'm sure he'll get some funding, obviously, to take him through to the Olympics now and maybe beyond. I don't know. I mean, look, I get it when they haven't been on a podium, but you just wish we could identify a few who have the potential and maybe get in there and make it that bit easier for them.
Yeah, it's a real kind of, there's an irony to it, or there's a paradox to it. Like, if you get to the top of the podium, we'll fund you.
Sure.
But why not fund me and help me get to the top of the podium? Like, for 7 years, I represented Ireland for the first time in 2003 at elite level, at senior level. And 7 years later, I win the European bronze, But for that 7 years, it was tough. It was very, very tough financially on me. Then I got to the top, and then I got the big funding. But then I picked up injury. There was other few things that went against me, and I didn't really hold on to the top funding for very long, basically. But when I got that top funding, then there was huge pressure on me to hold on to it. It's kind of it's a very pressurized situation, but it goes against the kind of ethos of having somebody to support you and back you.
Yes.
It's like, if you get to the top, we'll pay you we'll give you the money. But like, the whole point should be, here, we believe in you, we're going to fund you this amount, and we're going to help you to get to the top. That's the way it should be. Yeah. I think.
And it's funny, I mean, I don't know why it's not that way. Even the Taoiseach of the country was insane as much. We have to support potential as well. It can't just be about the established stars of today. You've got to support the potential for tomorrow. And so, for instance, between 2003 and 2010, how much per annum might you have got in a given year across those years?
The maximum I got was 12,000. Okay. I was under 12,000.
So that won't go far. You're either working or you're looking for sponsorship to keep the show on the road, really.
Yeah, and as one guy said, one athlete who I won't mention, a boxer who was looking for, who asked the supermarket for sponsorship for to try and qualify for the Olympic Games, and the supermarket said to him, "What do you want, a ham or a turkey?"
Yeah. Well, I think Billy Walsh always made the point, corporate Ireland could do a lot more for the boxers. Don't seem to attract sponsorship. So, anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, because I'm only in the... Well, I don't want to write myself off, but I know I'm in the final stages of my own career. But I was lucky enough to attract a huge corporate company in Bearing Point recently, you know, and they like my story. They like what I've been doing, and I've been doing a lot of online workouts with those staff throughout the lockdowns, and they've come on board as one of my sponsors. You know, I've a few more sponsors as well, but I'm just saying it's unusual to have, you know, as boxers, to get a big corporate company backing you like that. So I'm very lucky, and that they're behind me now, and I hopefully I can bring a big fight back home here to Ireland, a European title fight, and get back onto the national broadcaster. You know, it's been way too long since we've had a good night, you know, a good night of boxing in Ireland.
No, 100%. So look, Kurt Walker, Brendan Irvine, we have Kelly Harrington, obviously. We have Emmett Brennan, who we've just been discussing. We have the brother and sister, Aidan and Michaela Walsh. We have Aoife O'Rourke, and that's the team of 7. So hopefully they go and do really well. A world away from grafting amateurs and being sponsored with a ham or a turkey and 12 grand a year. I don't even know if I should bring this up. I don't know if I should sully this conversation by bringing this up, but Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather was this international event, so let's talk about it. I see like it was the most read story in The Guardian yesterday, so there's obviously an interest there. Like, Mayweather kicked it off in his press conference afterwards and said, you know, because all the journalists are saying, well, like, the crowd are booing you at the end, there's not even judges, there's no winner here, and it was like a sparring session for a lot of it. And Mayweather sort of said, in effect, I'm not directly quoting him here, but he said, like, listen, if you're all dumb enough to watch it, I mean, why am I going to turn down 50 to 100 million for doing nothing? He said, you can go and write your articles and give out about it. I'm going back to my mansion. Legacy doesn't pay the bills, was what he said. This was just a heist in broad daylight, and like, why wouldn't I do it? I mean, like, so he has a point. If people are dumb enough to watch it, and in America pay the $49.99 pay-per-view, and I think Logan Paul's going to make, they're estimating based on the pay-per-view numbers, he'll make about 20 million, Mayweather somewhere between 50 and 100. Hey, look, if there's a market for it, it's going to happen. Money talks, I suppose.
Yeah, who's the joke on, like?
Yeah.
You know, he's telling us he's robbing us, and we're still paying him.
Yeah.
You know, I'm robbing you, but we're still paying him. You know, it's a popularity.
Sorry, it came to my mind. I saw a tweet into the show saying that they didn't pay for the fight, that they streamed it. You know, they managed to get the stream for free, and they still felt robbed.
Yeah.
So
I seen that. To be honest with you, I did check the highlights the next day. You know, I just put on the YouTube highlights the next day just to kind of have a look at it, and my God, you know, he came under he was under a bit of pressure and kind of an onslaught there in the first round, and you could actually see, and people are not aware of it, probably not even aware of this. Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, it's Mayweather, he's gonna smash him, like, he's the best boxer ever. But let's look at it from a boxing point of view, like, you know, and the whole kind of a size, weight, categories, all that kind of, you know, carry on. Like, your man was 30 plus pounds heavier than Mayweather.
I have it here. He was near 20 years younger. He had a 4-inch reach advantage, and he was 34 pounds heavier than Mayweather. So, like, in anyone's money, that's a lot to give up.
It's huge. It's huge. And it doesn't matter whether he's a technical or has this kind of finesse or whatever, you know, boxing ability. He doesn't have to have that. He's a YouTuber. He was never schooled boxing, but like, he can throw a slap. Like, most people can throw a slap, you know what I mean? Like, most people can swing their hands and let them out. And if he catches you with one of them on top of the head without any head guard, that's going to hurt, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
So you could actually see Mayweather very clever in the first round, brought his elbows up very high, and we call him in the boxing world, he put the earmuffs on, you know, like, he really protected his head, so much so because he knew this guy was going to come out all guns blazing, all, you know, swinging, and then eventually, like, the gas runs out of the tank for, you know, Logan Paul, or is Logan, is it? It's Logan, is it?
That says all.
Jake Logan, they're two brothers.
That says all we need to know about this situation, I suppose. Isn't it? And so that first round where Logan Paul comes out and throws a million punches, just like, this is like outside of takeaway stuff, you know. Is that the most dangerous round for Mayweather?
Of course it is, because that's when he's full of energy, full of power, full of strength, and then as soon as he starts, it's a bit like those old computer games, you know, the way, like, you know, the Street Fighter or whatever, you go and you use your maximum move or your maximum power strength, and you do your move, you know, and that's what it was like. It was like Logan Paul was doing his best moves, but his energy was sapping all along. And And of course, Mayweather was never going to meet him and fight fire with fire. He was really just like a turtle, putting the earmuffs on, bringing up the shell, protecting his head, because that was the, Mayweather's not going to get knocked out with body shots or arm shots, whatever. He was protecting the most precious thing in the fight, which is his noggin, his head, because he knows one good slap, doesn't matter who you are, you can be the best boxer in the world. One good slap off someone 30 plus pound heavier than you will do serious damage to a head that's not protected. So he was very clever in how he kind of protected that and just let Logan Paul's energy. Like, I only seen the highlight clip, but it seemed like he just let his energy sap down, and then just start picking off the rounds. And he was never going to knock out Logan Paul. People are saying, oh, he's going to knock him out. Again, the same thing is, there's a flip side to what I said about 30 plus pounds. Mayweather was 30 less pounds. So he wasn't going to have the same effect with his power punches. And as well, he's 47 years old and so long out of the game, all that. But look, at the end of the day, it was a show. It was a spectacle. It was, some people might say a circus or whatever, but there's two lads going away there and they're after making a fortune. And that's just the way the world has gone now with social media. Social media just has so much of an impact and so much say on sporting events now. It's almost like whatever social media calls for, they get,
Yeah, for sure. I was just looking at the stats. Logan Paul, he threw 217 punches. He landed 28 of them. Like I said, there was no judges, so there was no official winner, and there was booing at the end of the fight. I think people felt like they wanted to see a knockout of some kind. So, I was reading in a few pieces that Mayweather could have knocked him out if he wanted to. You're not so sure because of size.
I don't think so. There was another clip where they said Mayweather hit him around the back of the ear and he was knocked out. He was concussed, and Mayweather held him up. Be honest with you, I think Mayweather would have loved to make that. My opinion was that's just the way the camera angle caught that clip. I didn't think your man might have been a little bit dazed or whatever, but he definitely wasn't. Mayweather didn't hold him up. I don't think Mayweather would be able to hold him up either. Your man's joined towards Mayweather. But I think if Mayweather had the chance to make mincemeat of him, he would have, but he didn't. He was Mayweather, all Mayweather cared about was just winning the fight. I know it wasn't judged officially, but Mayweather just wanted to kind of not get knocked out, not take any damage, and just get through the rounds, and in the boxing people's opinion, have the verdict basically. As that's all he wanted to do, but
get back to his mansion.
Just money.
Yeah. I mean, he's never really cared. I mean, I don't know how many nights how many long nights with mates back in my all too distant youth, trying to stay up late and watch a Mayweather fight, only for 10, 11 rounds in for someone to just say, this lad is just too boring. He didn't care. I mean, he was an artist. I presume you loved watching him, but he is not going to care about putting on a show in a fight like this.
No, he's not. But isn't it interesting, Joe, that one man can have so much? And there's a lot of men out there, I'm sure, that have such an obsession with money. He's a wealthy man, a very, very wealthy man. He doesn't need to do those things, And yeah, you might say, sure, it's risk free or whatever. It's not completely risk free, but Mayweather knows what he's doing,
Yeah.
But it's not completely, without risk, basically. But you'd imagine he's enough money to not have to go and do, go through this kind of stuff again. But he's obsessed. He's absolutely obsessed with making money. I think he's the first billionaire sportsman in the world, and he wants to continue making more. So he said, "You can't eat legacy, or your children can't eat legacy." Was the line I read.
Yeah, I think he said himself he viewed this as like daylight robbery. He's like, you're going to pay me how much to fight Logan Paul? Okay, sign me up. Did he even how much training did he do? I don't know. So there we are. Look, I don't know. It's weird even analysing the fight. It's hard to know what to make of it. But as you said, it's kind of a noteworthy direction for the sport. We had the McGregor-Mayweather fight. Logan Paul is that's a different beast entirely. At least McGregor has some kind of background in fighting. I know Logan Paul was a wrestler, I think, but compared to McGregor, he has no credentials whatsoever. But 66 million followers on social media. So the fact, this will be deemed a success now. He's made 20 million out of this fight. Mayweather's made somewhere between 50 and 100. I mean, the brother is kind of all this. He's kind of calling people out as well. I suspect we'll see a few more of these. If they're making money, they're going to happen. Do you think they're, I don't know, damaging in any way to boxing, or is it just like whatever? It doesn't really make a difference either way.
Well, I think Mayweather versus McGregor was not so much welcomed at the start, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it, and I was curious to find out how it would happen. Well, I wasn't really curious. I knew exactly what would happen, but I just wanted to see it, just as out of curiosity, to see what it would be like. I actually predicted exactly how the fight would go, you know, and it went exactly that way. But McGregor, as you said, he had credibility. He was a former amateur boxer. He was now a world champion, proven, tested in a mixed martial arts sport.
Yeah.
He wasn't coming into this, you know, off the back of from the gaming world, you know. But now that, you know, I was okay with that. I didn't want it to become a common thing. I didn't want it to become a popular thing. I just wanted it to become a kind of a flash in the pan thing. Let's all have a look at it. Grant, move on. We've seen it. But now it's starting to kind of pick up a bit of pace. But the bar is dropping. The bar is dropping low. You know, when you're bringing in gamers and YouTubers and all that, and there's a lot of boxing people really, really affected by this, and there's a lot of feathers being ruffled, because a lot of them, as I mentioned earlier on about Emmett Brennan taking out a loan for himself. Do you know what I mean? Like taking out, like a lot of people have trained their backsides off for years and years, who are trying so hard to make it. You know, and even making it doesn't mean you're going to be financially secure for the rest of your life. Like, these boxers who are going to the Olympic Games, it doesn't mean they're going to be, they might be household names for a while, but it doesn't mean they're going to be financially set up, you know, they might do well, they might get a few sponsors or whatever, but it doesn't mean they're going to hit the big time, you know. It's just a dream come true for a lot of people to represent their country in the Olympic Games. But when you have these guys, these YouTubers and these kind of, what would you say, influencers and stuff like that, being able to get in and mix it at the very top level of a sport as old as boxing, no, it's very strange. It's very strange.
If people are paying for it, I guess that dictates it. And one last one, the latest in your situation, injury healing up, have you got a new date in mind, or where are we?
Yeah, injury's healing up now, and I'm not sparring yet, but I'm back training, back in full-time training, due to talk to my manager Mark Dunlop this week now about the next plan, but it looks like September time.
Right.
Looks like in around September time. So I will be training. I'll be working away now and getting myself ready. And it looks like it's going to be a big fight in September too. And the good news is it could be back home. Home.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so and it could have fans. So hey, you know, fingers crossed. So everything happens for a reason.
Okay. Well, listen. That would be super. That would be great. And listen, come here. After you win that one, start tweeting Logan Paul, throw some abuse his way. It's the payday you want.
Do you know something? I try not to get caught up in the whole thing, you know, because I do see some people getting very angry about it, and I know where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, nothing Eric Donovan is going to say is going to change that game. You know, so I just try and just keep it very simple and just let them do what they do.
Hey, look, if people want to hand over $49.99 US to watch it, good luck to them.
Yeah.
Eric Donovan, always great having you on. Thanks a mil.
Thank you, Joe.
Cheers.